encounters found on the Dark Waters channel are from real locations with real people. We will not be held responsible or liable if you are chased by Dogman, molested by Bigfoot, abducted by UFOs, locked in a cage underground by lizard people, possessed by demons, or find yourself being arrested by the NSA, CIA, FBI, Joe Biden, the Bureau of Land Management, or any other three-letter organization. Please understand that we do not encourage you to go to the sites of these locations. Any decision to go to any site of any location is yours and yours alone, and you will be held responsible. If you are crazy enough or stupid enough to go to any of these locations, I assure you that you should have your life insurance in place, travel insurance in place, home insurance in place, automobile insurance in place, and you should be kissing your wife and children goodbye because you may not be returning.
Now, at least 83 people are dead after days of heavy rain in southern Brazil, and more than 100 are missing. Another 122,000 people have been displaced by floods, which have destroyed roads and bridges in several cities, triggered landslides, and caused a dam to partially collapse. The governor of Brazil's Rio Grande do Sul state has described it as being in a war scenario. It is the fourth time they've been hit by flooding in the last year. Aisha Tull has more.
Boats having to replace cars, and helicopters becoming a small beacon of hope as people await rescue. A body-worn camera captures the moment a soldier uses a brick to break the roof of a house to free a baby trapped by floodwater. A scene now too familiar for the people of Rio Grande do Sul, as the military and volunteers frantically race to save others who need help.
I'm 53 years old, and this is the first time our house has flooded. It has never flooded before. We never thought we would go through this.
At least 80 people are known to have died, more than 100 are still missing, and over 100,000 can't return home.
When you think about traveling the world, you think about beautiful landscapes and luxurious resorts. When my wife and I first got married, because we could not afford for her family to come to the wedding here in America, we decided that our first trip would be back to her home in Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Now, to be clear, this was not my idea. I wanted to take a trip to France, but she insisted that she wanted to see her family. So we scheduled the trip, and frankly, from the day we bought the flight, I had a bad feeling, like it was the wrong decision. However, I wanted my wife to be happy, so I went with it. Fast forward a few weeks later, I'm on a trip for work, and I mention the area to one of my friends. He starts to talk about the wine made in the area and the vineyards and how amazing it was. He and his friends went there just to visit the wineries, and he talks about the hiking and the outdoors, and I'm like, okay, maybe this won't be that bad of a trip. I was wrong, and looking back on it, we would have been trapped there during the flood had it not been for traveler's insurance. I say this to you because most people have no clue what it means to be a U.S. citizen in dire need of help in another country. So before you decide to live out your dreams and go to remote places, make sure you have some traveler's insurance. That is all I will say about that. Now, imagine the scene. We get there, and it's nice, nothing like being in an American city. It was developed, however, the infrastructure was not modern like I was used to. You could see the cultural influence everywhere. I mean, you could see the Catholic influence, the European influence in architecture. We check into our hotel and take a nap from the long flight with plans to drive to her parents' place outside of the city before night. When we finally get to her home where she grew up, it explained a lot about my wife. Simple, minimal. It was clean, but there was nothing fancy about this place at all. Her entire family was there, and this was turning into one big party. Now, the way we party and the way they party is so different. Our parties have a start and end time, not so. This went on till 3 a.m. People coming and going, laughing, drinking, smiling. By the time 4 a.m. rolled around, I went to the car to get some sleep but couldn't because my body was all messed up due to the time zone. I felt tired but was not sleepy. This is important, and I want you to remember this. I want to say that I actually fell asleep as the sun was coming up. I remember the rays of sun on the horizon and then waking up to the sounds of my wife getting in the car and telling me we were going back to the hotel. Later that day, she was to hang out with some of her friends in the city, so I decided I was going to go on a hike. So I drive out to Parque Nacional de Serra Geral, get out, and start to walk the trails. Stop, pause right here, and let me explain some things to you. Number 1, I am not a drunk and I don't use drugs at all, never have and never will. Number 2, I was very well aware of my location as I used a GPS watch and marked my starting point. Number 3, I cannot say I'm a novice to the outdoors, nor can I say I'm a professional. However, what I can confidently say is I have spent over 200 hours outdoors, hiking and camping. Now that we have established that, let me tell you about the insanity I found myself in. So I start to walk, and the way the trail ran, you walk along the side of the canyon, and then you come to this fork where you could walk down into the canyon. Down below, I could see other people off in the distance, so I decide I would love to get a view from down there. I head down. However, once I get to the bottom of the area, I'm looking for those people that I saw, and they are nowhere to be found. Okay, no big deal. I figure I would walk up a little further and then turn around. So I walk, and as I walk, I start to get this sense that I'm being watched from some of these cracks and crevices in the canyon. We're talking about 40 feet in the air. There are these cave openings, and I know I'm not crazy. It's the same feeling I had when I was being stalked by a mountain lion while hiking in Kentucky. I knew that feeling, your body telling you there is danger. The issue was this was not the woods, and you would think that as I passed the area that feeling would go away, but it didn't. It felt like from every direction I was being watched. So now I'm saying it's time to turn around. As I start to work my way back, I still feel like something is watching me, and it is confirmed when I hear a person calling, "Hey, hey you." Looking behind me, it's the people I saw. Now, mind you, these people were nowhere to be seen a few seconds ago, and now they are right behind me. I mean 20 feet behind me, a male and a female, and the woman says, "What are you doing here?" She says it with this tone like I was doing something wrong, and I say, "The same thing you're doing." They laugh, and the man says, "Let him go, he is headed for trouble anyway." Have you ever found yourself in a situation where people are talking about you like you are not even there, but you are right in front of them? It's belittling. That is what they are doing, and she says, "You need to leave while you can," and by leave I mean leave the country. She laughs, and I say, "What does that mean?" Listen to me. It sounded like a threat. I took it like a threat, so I make eye contact with her, strong eye contact, letting it be known I was not afraid. And that is when her eyes changed, went straight reptile eyes like a damn snake, and looking at him the same thing, and he says, "Now what you're going to do is run and leave this place, never to return." And I can't tell you why, but my body started running. I ran and ran and ran until I got back to the car. Stop right here and let me say this. That trip to the split was a little over a mile's walk. I can't say for sure how long I walked in that canyon, but I was down there no more than 20 minutes. So let's just be generous with the time. Let's say it was a 2-hour trip to that point where I met them and back to the car. Why, when I was in the car and checked the time, 5 hours had passed. So now I'm freaking out. I head back to the hotel, and my wife is there, pissed. I tell her what happened, and we are later to be at her parents' house. We head out into traffic, and the rain starts. Listen, that rain starts, and it just doesn't stop. It keeps raining and raining, and the streets start to flood, not like a raging river, but ankle-deep water. No one is panicking. In fact, the kids were outside playing, and I went outside to play with one of my wife's nephews. We are outside playing when I hear this rushing sound. It sounded like thunder, but it was too low to the ground. Next thing I know, a wall of water is coming in our direction. Water, debris, cars. It felt like something from one of the end-of-the-world disaster movies. So now I'm running towards him, trying to get him and get back into the house. I was able to get him and get to the front door before the water slammed into my body. I remember pushing him into the door and seeing the look on my wife's face as my body was jerked from the impact. Next, water, brown, dirty water, and debris coming up for air, and realizing that I was pinned against the side of the house, legs trapped. Then seeing a car coming straight at me, I remember struggling to free my leg, the pain, and then being free. Looking at that car hitting the side of the house and rotating in my direction, it was about to fold in on me like a door closing on my body. I scrambled to the other side of the house, putting the house between me and the rushing water beating on the window for them to let me in, and climbing in only to realize that the water was rising just as fast inside as it was outside. Her father getting her mother into the attic and everyone climbing. It was not until we were up there that the pain kicked in. My entire right side felt like glass was stabbing my body. Then I was out. I mean darkness. When I awoke, I had been flown to a hospital by helicopter. My wife was there. When I asked about her parents and family, she said they were fine, but she had this look on her face. She said that my back was broken. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I remember climbing. That is not possible with a broken back. Well, I tried to move my legs and nothing would move. An hour later, the doctor came in and explained that I needed surgery within 48 hours. But with the condition of the city, there was no way this could happen. He said that they had contacted my insurance company and that they wanted me to be taken back to the United States, flown to Houston, Texas. Listen, I'm laying there freaking out. How in the hell is this going to happen? I was the person in our relationship that dealt with the disaster and problems, not my wife. I made the call, booked the flights, everything. I think the doctor could tell I was freaking out because a few minutes later he gave me a sedative, and when I woke up I was in Houston at the hospital. They woke me up briefly and told me they were going to do the surgery, and then I was out again. When I woke up, I was in the recovery room. I'm still afraid. I don't know what is going to happen. However, when you asked for stories about lizard people, I had to tell you mine.